You probably think of the internet as something that just exists, open, free, belonging to everyone and no one. That's the story we were told. Here's the reality. The internet runs through a small number of choke points, and almost all of them are owned by a handful of companies. If you understand these choke points, you understand who really has power in the modern world. And it's not who you think. Four companies now control roughly 70% of all undersea internet traffic. Not governments, not telecoms, four private companies. Let's start at the bottom, literally. Nearly all international internet traffic, so emails, video calls, financial transactions, almost everything travels through undersea cables. Physical cables laid across ocean floors. There are over 600 of these cables in service worldwide. A decade ago, big tech companies used less than 10% of the world's undersea cable capacity. Today, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon account for around 70% of it. Google alone has an ownership stake in more than 30 of these cables. This means a handful of companies can, in practice, influence the speed, priority, or even availability of internet traffic for entire regions just by how they manage infrastructure they privately own. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's public record. It's just not something most people ever think about. A single software bug at one content delivery company took down Amazon, Reddit, Spotify, and dozens of other major sites in under an hour. Then, 11 days later, it happened again. To a different provider. Three companies control the overwhelming majority of global cloud infrastructure, the servers that store and run almost everything you use online. Your favorite apps, government databases, hospital records, banking systems. Much of it sits on servers and networks owned by a small number of private corporations. In June 2021, a software update at a company called Fastly triggered a bug that knocked major sites like Amazon, Reddit, and Spotify offline for nearly an hour, costing an estimated $2 billion in losses. 11 days later, a similar outage at a different infrastructure provider, Akamai, disrupted airlines, banks, and stock exchanges around the world. One bug, one company. Global consequences, twice in less than 2 weeks. That's not a hypothetical risk. That already happened. A small number of platforms decide what you see first, what you never see at all, and what gets labeled true or false, for billions of people every single day. Now let's talk about the layer you actually see, the apps. A small number of platforms control how most humans discover information, communicate, and form opinions. These companies don't just host content, they decide what you see first, what you never see at all, and what gets labeled as true or false. This is what researchers call the new public square. Except unlike an actual public square, this one is privately owned, and the owner can change the rules at any time, for any reason, with no vote and no appeal process most people can access. Here's the uncomfortable question this raises. If a private company can decide what billions of people see, hear, and believe, does it matter that no government elected them to that role? Some argue this is simply how free markets work. Companies built better products, people chose to use them, and influence followed naturally. Others argue that information infrastructure at this scale stops being a private matter and starts being a public one, regardless of who built it first. There's no clean answer here. Reasonable people disagree on where the line should be. What's not up for debate is this. A small number of decisions made in a small number of boardrooms now shape the information environment for most of humanity. So who actually controls the internet? Not one person, not one government, not some secret committee. It's a small number of private companies making commercial decisions that happen to also be civilizational decisions, whether they intended that responsibility or not. And here's what makes this genuinely complicated. Most of these companies didn't set out to control global information flow.
They built a product, it scaled faster than anyone expected, and the power came with it, sometimes faster than their own governance could keep up. That doesn't excuse problems, but it does mean the picture isn't simply villains seizing power. It's also power concentrating as a side effect of speed, scale, and a regulatory system that hasn't caught up. So what do you actually do with this information? First, recognize that the internet isn't neutral infrastructure. It has owners, and owners have interests. Second, diversify where you get information. Not because any one source is necessarily biased, but because relying on a single funnel means you're seeing the internet through someone else's choices, not your own. Third, pay attention when policy conversations come up about these companies. Whatever your political views, this is one of the few issues that will shape the next several decades, regardless of which side of the debate you land on. This isn't a call to panic about the internet. It's been, overall, one of the greatest tools for human connection and knowledge in history. It's a call to see it clearly, including who built it, who runs it, and who benefits when you don't ask these questions. Because the most powerful kind of control isn't the kind people resist. It's the kind people never notice.
If this changed how you see the internet, subscribe to Mind and Method.
See you next time.